In this video, I want to talk about cyclist safety and more generally obstructions on the road. Now, we're coming up to make a right turn at this intersection and we have two cyclists in front of us. I can't remember where these cyclists showed up from, possibly from one of the side houses here. Now, whatever the case may be, all I know is I'm coming up, I am maybe about 30 meters away from this intersection, and there's a couple of things that I want to mention. One is, if I'm this close to making this right turn, it doesn't make sense for me to go around these cyclists and then try to quickly cut them off and come back into this lane to make my turn. Now, the best plan is to plan ahead, right? So if I had seen these cyclists, a block or 2 blocks back, I would think, okay, maybe I should move into the left lane, pass them, and then safely make it back into my lane. But here's something that happens with students quite often is they'll see an obstruction on the road. Maybe it's a cyclist, or maybe there is a garbage can, or maybe all of a sudden a FedEx delivery truck stops in front of their vehicle. The first thing that seems to come to mind is, I'll just quickly swerve out of the way. Now, the danger with that is we don't know if there's someone in that lane unless we've taken the second to, signal, check our mirror, check our side mirror, do our shoulder check to the left before we switch over. So the best strategy is, an obstruction showed up. I'm going to slow down and match the speed of that obstruction. So if a vehicle stops all of a sudden in front of you, you should aim to stop safely as well. If a cyclist is moving slowly, you should aim to slow down and match the speed of the cyclist. Now, I'm not saying stay there. You can obviously, when it's safe, do a lane change and move on. But what you don't want to do is spontaneously think, well, I got to keep rolling, so I'll just quickly move into that lane. That's possibly the most dangerous thing that you could do in that situation. Now, coming up to this intersection, by the way, I just want to mention these flashing green lights here in BC mean that they're pedestrian controlled. So for as long as they're flashing green, we know that that light is going to stay that way. In other words, it's a green light. If a pedestrian comes up and presses the button, you'll see those flashing green lights go to a solid green, and then shortly after you'll see that it'll change to a yellow and a red. So a couple of other things I want to mention is, we can see here this cyclist here is giving us a hand signal. He's raising his left arm going like this, and what that's indicating to us is he's about to make a right turn. Now, I'm not sure exactly at this point whether they're together or not. It seems like they're matching the same speed, so I would figure that she too wants to make a right at this intersection. This is the other reason why they ask you for your hand signals, to make sure that you know what the other road users are communicating with you at the beginning of your road test. The other reason you would want to know the hand signals is, if your vehicle's signal light burns out and you need to find a way to a mechanic shop to get that repaired, you would use your hand signals to navigate your way there. So again, moving on, coming up to make this turn. By the way, as far as when I would check for any other cyclist, I would say that if I rewind this video back, I think around here I would be signaling to the right. Around here I would be doing my rear view mirror check. Around here I'm going to do my side mirror check to see what's happening further down the road. And maybe around here I'm going to do that shoulder check to the right to see if there are any other cyclists possibly riding alongside me in my blind spot. Notice I haven't left it right till the last second, because if I'm rolling up to this intersection and I've got a green light, chances are, a cyclist is not going to poof reappear out of nowhere, right? So as long as I've done it within 1 or 2 seconds as I'm coming up to this intersection, then I should be okay. This is only when the light is green. We'll talk in another video about what you would do if it's a red light and when you would do those shoulder checks. So we've done those shoulder check to the right. We can see that she's also indicating that she wants to turn right here. And we're turning into this road as well. Now, this is where I'm starting to think, well, if this road is wide enough, I want to possibly move away and carry on. The only thing is as soon as I turn onto this road, I can see a vehicle approaching from the other direction. Now, I have got a solid yellow line, so that's telling me that I am allowed to pass safely, a slow-moving vehicle or road user. But I have to think, by the time I go around the cyclist, where will this car be, and will we all end up in a bottleneck? If that's the case, I don't want to go into that bottleneck. I'd rather be inconvenienced for another few seconds, wait for this vehicle to pass by, and then I can proceed. So coming up here, notice I'm not really getting too close to these cyclists. I'm trying to match the speed of these cyclists as much as I can. So what happens very often with students is they're not covering the brake enough, so they'll just close in and close in and close in right up to the bicycle. And I'm thinking, if this bicycle suddenly trips and falls, we're going to be right there with them, right? So give those road users room. Just because they're on a smaller vehicle, if you will, doesn't mean that they deserve less space. Now, as we're getting closer and closer, we can see this bottleneck that I'm talking about. We got this parked car here. We want to give these cyclists about 1 meter of room, so I would be probably around here, and this would be cutting it too close if I were to just squeeze in to this bottleneck here. So what I do instead is I wait for this vehicle to pass by, and this is a great time for me to signal, shoulder check, and make my way into the oncoming traffic site. Now, there's no one coming down this road. There is an intersection here, but I don't see any cars approaching. I can see that they've got a stop sign there as well. So I'm fairly confident that I'm okay to go around this cyclist here. Now, as I'm doing this maneuver, I can see that he's starting to indicate to the left. At this point, I would say that I would just carry on with my maneuver. I've done my best to make sure that I'm passing them at a safe time. If he now wants to go into the street, it's just a matter of waiting for me to pass by and he can tuck in behind me. Now, if he was, showing very intently that he's cycling and he's planning on going for it, well, then I'm not going to compete for that space. But they're kind of just like hovering there, not really pedaling as fast as they could. So I know I'm in a pretty good situation to pass them and they can go wherever they want. So we're now 37 seconds into this video. So if we go back to where I was here, I could have been where I was just now 15 seconds ago, right? But because of these cyclists, we're coming up here. I didn't want to go around them, cutting the solid white line and then making a turn from the wrong lane. That would all be no-nos, right? So it just worked out that I'm now in this lane. I want to make a right turn, the same place the cyclists want to make a turn. So I'm just going to match my speed with them, try to maintain as good of a distance as I can from them, doing my shoulder check to the right nice and early, making my turn onto this road. And this is where I would possibly think about passing them, except for now this oncoming traffic has showed up. So what I want you to do is watch the replays at the end of this video and kind of think about, when did you spot the oncoming traffic? When would you have gone around the cyclist? And what would you have done at that previous turn? Would you have tried to kind of do a half lane change and then come back into their side? Or would you have stayed behind them like I did? And those are things like these situations, we run into them often, but not often enough. So sometimes I get the feeling students don't get the amount of exposure they should to those situations. And when they do come up, they're great, situations for me to point out, hey, like, was this a good time for us to go around that vehicle or FedEx truck or cyclist or garbage truck, or should we have stayed back and waited for a safe gap? So I hope this video taught you something, and I'll see you in the next one.